March meeting of the Inventors Association of Manhattan. For those of you that are new, can everyone hear me okay? And videotape, Steve, you can hear?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So thanks for coming, and as you all know, we are here for the purpose of education and empowerment of inventors, startups, and entrepreneurial ventures of all kinds. And just to give you a sense of some of the things going on in the inventor world, in addition to a great speaker we have tonight, I'm just back from a couple of trade shows. One in Germany, it's called the Inventors trade show. It's the largest consumer goods trade fair in the world. If you know what Jacob Javits Center is, envision Jacob Javits times 11. It's a huge campus, and every building is occupied, and you have companies from all around the world, Europe, South America, Asia, both manufacturers and marketers showing off their products. And there is a lot going on in the world. China is becoming more and more important as it relates to consumer goods. I was in the Chicago Housewares Fair, and there's a great tone I see going on in terms of receptivity to open innovation, submissions from inventors. Companies are much more liberal and willing to look at outside inventor submissions. You should be aware of that. Before you start engaging with some of these inventor submission companies. So that's something I think is very important for you to be aware of. I do some coaching, and I had a client last week that was telling me about a company, and they will be nameless because I'm not here to trash anyone, but one of the keys was that they said, oh, you have a great product, and we have a company that's interested in examining it, but you need to create a prototype. And they wanted to charge him $8,000 to create the prototype. So I kind of chuckled, and we got through some of the research about his product, and we were online, and we saw that, well, the product's out there already. The company that he said that was interested, the company that told him there's a company that's interested, that other company doesn't exist. And he just through 15 minutes of some internet search with him, he discovered that it's really a bunch of bull that somebody would say that there's someone interested because this product is out there already. So it was just a come on to get him to build a prototype with that company. So understand that if you do your homework and you have some good tools, which might include a prototype or some visualizations, there are ways to get your products into some of these companies, especially in the housewares industry is what I saw. So also something that I think is interesting, a lot of people I speak to have concerns about going to China to do their production. And it's I don't want to say a false argument, but it's something not to be overly concerned about, because it's not about where your product is produced, it's how it's being managed. And just to give you a very interesting example, part of why I was in Germany was on a client project in the jewelry industry, and there's a company from Oklahoma who was looking for proper design support and production of their product. And if you can follow this, so Oklahoma, going to Germany, we met a company that's a German-based company that has an Iranian designer that does his production in China. So the world is a very interesting and intertwined place, and before you make any judgments about any particular countries of origin, just understand that you have to seek value and expertise, and doing your homework gets you to a point of finding interesting solutions. That being said, it brings us to our topic for tonight, crowdfunding, which is also another great opportunity for a lot of inventors and startups as it relates to being able to control your own destiny. And we're fortunate tonight that we have David Postolski, who is up to date on a lot of the legal and marketing issues surrounding crowdfunding, and something that you should all be aware of. And without taking any of his thunder, I leave it to you, Dave, to educate us, please.
Thank you. So, can you all hear me? So, first of all, I want to say that I want this to be as interactive as possible. I know we probably all have questions and answers, but if there's something that strikes you right away, and you can raise your hand, you don't have to feel like you can't ask me anything. I really want to know about all of you. I'm so intrigued by everyone here. This is, it's my first experience with with this organization, but I work with a lot of inventors every day, from solo inventors to startups to massive companies in different countries. So I just wanted to take a kind of poll out here. Has anybody heard of crowdfunding or Kickstarter or any of these sites? Everybody, has anybody used it? You have. You actually have campaigns on there.
I had one but unsuccessful. But
Unsuccessful.
At least I get how
Okay.
it works.
Yeah, that's right. And
Excuse me,
yeah.
is everyone warm in here? I see a couple of people.
It is
standing
kind of warm in
themselves.
here,
I'm
yeah.
gonna see if I can-
But I'm always warm. So you had a campaign, it was unsuccessful. You were a backer on a campaign, or you had your own campaign? Someone else raised their hand.
I did.
Yeah.
I set up an account, but I didn't put my campaign up yet.
Cool. And Andre, you were a backer.
I've been many a backer.
Okay, cool. I mean, I think you will hear about the history of crowdfunding. I am going to go into that, but you should know that it probably is a pretty good opportunity for you when done right. I think there's a lot of bad situations out there of how people have handled their campaigns, and we're going to talk about some of those as well. I am a patent attorney. Before I was a patent attorney, I was a trademark and copyright attorney, so I've been doing IP since I'm 18. I had my first job in an entertainment law firm right when I started college, so I've been in and around IP for exactly 21 years. So, you know, it's something that I have that I'm very passionate about. I've actually backed many projects. I've seen patents go from the development stage all the way to the production stage to making a big splash on the market. So you know, I'm glad to share this knowledge with you. Dave Pitney prides itself on helping inventors, solo inventors. There are a lot of firms that turn solo inventors away. They don't want to deal with you, or they don't want to deal with the fact that maybe there's not a lot of capital or what. But Dave Pitney has been trying to take strides in helping you formulate these fundraising and these crowdfunding campaigns. So, you know, if you have any other questions after this, we can talk. But hopefully, this will be interactive. Anyway, let me get right into it. So, once upon a time, crowdsourcing. That's where it all started from. The actual definition from the dictionary is an engagement process by which organizations seek input from people to contribute ideas, solutions, or support which are reinforced through social media. This was a way of people, you know, you have a project and you need different tasks done, and you would go out and solicit people to do their tasks. From that came crowdfunding, which, according to the definition, the collective effort of individuals who network and pool their money to support efforts initiated by other people or organizations. So they've attached a financing element to it. So you're looking to raise money, there's a way to do it on the internet through crowdfunding. So there is a difference between engaging people for their ideas and engaging people for their money. There's a big difference in that. But I think it's something you should think about if you're in your prototype stage and you're looking for ideas. There is a way to do that as well online. There is a market for that as well, where you can ask people for their feedback. Say again?
Your microphone.
You can't hear?
Now we can.
Can you hear?
Stay close to your microphone.
Yeah. Can you hear?
I can hear.
The whole time?
Yeah, but it's
You were getting at the edge.
I'm getting a lot of.
Can you hear this? Can you hear me? Okay, equity crowdfunding is the newest offshoot of crowdfunding. You can read the definition. It enables broad groups of investors to fund startup companies and small businesses in return for equity. Basically, this is a offshoot of crowdfunding. Right now, crowdfunding, the basic definition as we know it is you are asking people for money, and in exchange you are giving them some type of reward. You're not giving them any part of your company or any type of your patent or anything like that. But the SEC has just passed regulations, and we'll get into that, for equity crowdfunding to be legal in the United States. It is legal in many, many countries. The United States is the last to join this new type of crowdfunding. And basically, you'd be asking money from people in exchange of a percentage in your company. So they give you $100,000, and you give them 5% of your company, similar to what you see on Shark Tank.
Sure.
I feel like I skipped a slide, and there's no way to go back. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, maybe, how do you go back one slide?
We're trying something new tonight using the screen
Right.
instead of the projector, so. Can everyone see in the back, by the way?
Oh, I didn't skip a slide. I'm sorry. That was slide 2. Sorry. I was right. Okay, so before we get into the rewards crowdfunding, we're going to talk a little about the crowdsourcing and about the equity first, just so you have an idea of what those are. So I'm not sure if everyone has heard of the Jumpstart Our Business, Startups, the Jobs Act. It's something that President Obama just signed into effect in 2012. Basically, it outlines the way crowdfunding should work and some of the regulations that the SEC should be giving down. So the deadline for equity crowdfunding was December 31st, 2012. So the SEC was supposed to come out with their regulations for equity crowdfunding by December 31st, 2012. They have not come out with their regulations yet. So the reason why you cannot do equity crowdfunding still in the United States is because the SEC has a new leader. I believe her name is Mary Shapiro, and she has a lot on her plate. So they're expecting the new rules to come out the end of 2014. There are some unique things you can do still with equity crowdfunding. We'll get into that, but right now you still can't solicit money from people in exchange for a percentage of your company. So if you want to do that, there's certain things there's certain rules you have to follow. So the first rule that you have to follow in order to offer equity in your company in exchange for funding is that the person who issues the equity must establish a partnership with an SEC-registered broker-dealer who acts as an intermediary. So basically what this means is that you have to partner with a brokerage house, someone who's licensed to issue securities, and you have to partner with them. So if you feel like your company is not sure what the status of any of your companies are, even if you have them. But if you have a company and you strike a deal with a brokerage house, you can then offer securities or an equitable interest in your company in exchange for an investor giving you money. However, the investor that gives you money has to be an accredited investor. So the SEC now will only allow you to accept money from someone who has a net income of $200,000 per year or a joint income of $300,000 per year. And they have to have a net worth exceeding $1 million. So right now, in order to offer equity in your company in exchange for funding, to fund your inventions and your prototypes, you have to partner with a registered broker, and there are sites that do this, and we'll talk about them in a bit, but those sites have to get their money from investors who are basically very wealthy people who have very high joint incomes, who have a net worth of $1 million. So they've created this gated community of investors. So it's still kind of hard to penetrate into the equity crowdfunding model, but hopefully by 2014 the SEC will come out with less stringent rules. Yes?
This is to do it through a crowdfunding thing as an internet.
Correct. This is to do it through a crowdfunding portal.
Like, what's this? If you have people who don't meet those qualifications, you can find them through that.
Right. You can do your.
Do it on the side.
Correct. You can do private capital raising, which is what Shark Tank is, or possibly what the pitching panel can lead to, something like that. Yes, you can continue to, knock on somebody's door. Correct. Well, what's happening is that the SEC wants to control those types of those types of funding requirements. So right now you can find a private investor, but likely by 2014, if you're going to approach a private investor for, let's say, $500,000, likely the SEC will consider that an investment that they can control. So right now there's a little leeway that you can get around to it, but they're looking, the government and the SEC is looking to control all types of funding. That's where this is kind of heading to. Yes?
Yeah, what you're describing sounds like a type of underwriting that is called a private placement deal.
Correct.
And yeah, but it sounds like you do all the work of pitching the deal, and the broker collects a commission.
That's exactly what it is. It actually is a private placement. So you'd actually be going to an equity crowdfunding portal who will handle your private placement. So the SEC gets to control that. Yeah.
If you've got a patent pending and you've been approached by an angel, a VC company, friends and family, and you haven't incorporated a company to handle this patent, is it wise to look at crowdfunding or equity sourcing or?
We're going to get into the IP of it in a little bit, but I think right now what you just mentioned about angel investors and all that kind of stuff, there's a lot of funding mechanisms that don't fall under crowdfunding. Just like you said, angel investors, calling up mom and dad, getting something from your cousin, whatever. Those types of things are not, those types of funding are not yet, but likely will be controlled by the SEC in 2014. So you can still pursue those. But as far as the IP is concerned, we'll get into that because I think you've asked a very important question that we're going to get into, this patent pending process and how much disclosure do you want to tell the world?
Well,
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with crowdfunding is.
Right.
I have an invention submission company where I don't charge anybody anything. I just tell them, listen, submit it. If it's a lousy idea, I'll tell you. If it's a good idea, I'll tell you to go for it. That's it.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I'm not going to charge
David,
money.
maybe let's
But
move
what
forward.
what I need to know is, if you have intellectual property, how much are you giving up in crowdfunding?
Right, right. I actually have that slide. Yeah, we're going to cover that. We're going to cover that.
Every part everyone asks me. It's like, oh, I don't want to go crowdfunding because
Yeah,
someone will pitch
yeah.
me an idea. And
We're
then
gonna. I promise I have a slide on that. I have like 3 slides on that. Yes.
There's a rock star that, or an artist, that went to Kickstarter, she wanted 100,000, and she wound up getting $1.2 million. It was the largest.
Mhm.
And for the exchange, she was giving her CD.
Right.
Whatever she wanted. Is this because of, that's no longer valid? You can't do that?
No, you can do that. Basically, Kickstarter is a reward-based crowdfunding situation. You're not offering equity. You're offering a reward, the CD, or tickets to a concert or something.
Backing.
That's still viable.
Yeah, of course, of course. That's not going anywhere.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just equity we're talking about. So let's say you want to offer equity, and I promise I'm going to get off equity. I just want you to have the full story before we get into the rewards. Because there are options out there, and the reward-based crowdfunding is, it has its own issues and has its own problems. It's not all it's cracked up to be, but it can be great. But I want you to see the whole picture of the different types of different types of funding that are out there. So you want to offer equity. There's one portal in the United States that is currently doing what we just described, that they will match you up with an investor that has $200,000 and has a net worth of $1 million. It's called Rock the Post. But in order to submit a campaign or a request for funding in exchange for equity in your company, you have to submit to the portal an executive summary, a term sheet, investor relation presentations, pro forma financial projections, legal representation. You have to show that you have a lawyer, and corporate governance documents. I know, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've actually been asked this from 1 or 2 of you today, so if you have a company and your company's doing well and they are the ultimate assignee of your inventions, you have to be able to prove all of that on this site. So you have to be able to show them that your company is making money. You have to be able to show them your tax returns. You have to show them that you're legit. So once you can do that, you can post your campaign on Rock the Post and you can offer equity. That's if you're in that position. If you're in that, I realize that not all of you fall into that position, but if you do, there is this option out there right now in the United States.
Does that still require the accredited investor?
Yes, yes.
So this can't go to the public?
This can't go to the public yet, yeah. This is why when you go to Rock the Post, you actually go to that site, and I actually have the link here. If you go to it and you try to find out what some of these projects are, you can't. You actually have to sign up through them. You have to give them a lot of information. You have to say, well, I want to, invest, $100,000 in someone's campaign or something, and then they'll show you what the campaign is after they've kind of put you through the ringer. So it's not yet, it's still this gated community. It's still this private little area that people can't get into yet, unless you have the money. So in England, where equity crowdfunding is legal, and it's legal in most countries in the world, the #1 site is called Seedrs Limited. So this is likely what the model will be like in the United States. They have been doing it right for a very long time. They basically will allow you to equity crowdfund if you're a startup, which means you've been only in business for 1 year, less than 1 year, and they only allow you to have people invest in your company up to $200,000, and it can only be online. So you can't do it. You can't ask somebody privately. You have to do it through this portal. Oh, and then there's this all or nothing, where companies don't receive their funding unless they actually reach their target, and that's a pervasive theme in crowdfunding that we'll get into later. But Seedrs has gone through the ringer just like the SEC. It's called the Financial Services Authority in the United Kingdom. So they've come up with this. You should take a look at it, because there are public projects that you can look at.
Excuse me, what is the time frame? Let's say 200,000 reach what time frame?
It depends on the project, right? So you can say, I want to collect $1 million in 6 months. So you'd have to get 5 people. You can have people give up to $1 million within the first year of you being a startup, and if you don't collect it by that 1 year, then you don't get nothing. So there's this, all or nothing type thing. So that will likely be the model in the United States for equity crowdfunding. So, okay, so the history of reward-based crowdfunding. So this is where you give money to somebody who has a invention or a product, and in exchange you give them a reward. You give them a CD, tickets to a concert, some type of non-equity prize. Or maybe sometimes it's a thank you, right? Sometimes it could be as simple as a thank you. Sometimes it could be a pencil. Sometimes it could be meet me for lunch or something. Be very creative with your rewards, and we'll see that later on in the slide. So the first reward-based crowdfunding site was ArtistShare. Their main goal is to connect creative artists with fans in order to share the creative process and fund the creation of new artistic works. And in 2008, Indiegogo, the movie, the indie film crowdfunding site came out. And of course, in 2009, Kickstarter. So Kickstarter is very interesting because Kickstarter has some certain type of lingo. Everything has to be a project. I'm sure you know. Basically, you have to have clear, defined goals. They like that you have a video, and actually, we'll get into some of the requirements of Kickstarter.
So you can't fund your life on Kickstarter.
Right, and so you can't fund. Right, you can't say, can you give me $10,000 so I could take a trip to Bali and go surfing? Can't do that. So they want, you have to have some type of purpose. Right, some type of purpose, right, exactly. Actually, before, I wanted to throw this in there too. So crowdsourcing before. So crowdsourcing was the one where you are soliciting ideas, right? So let's say you have a prototype, you're looking for feedback on your ideas. This has become a very successful model as well. You can post your project, you can post your patent, you can ask people for ideas. So most industries have their own. PopTent allows you to, it actually allows video producers and filmmakers to post their content so they can get feedback on a campaign or what their videos looks like. it's become very popular with Kickstarter projects. So people will create 4-minute videos for Kickstarter, they'll post it on Pop 10, and they'll try to get feedback on how well their video is doing. 99 Designs also, if you have a logo for your company or for your trademark for your product, you can post it on 99 Designs and you can get feedback as well. There are fees for these. Some of them are like $99 for the year. Some of them are by project basis, but it's actually a really good resource. So it's for ideas. The most popular one is Quirky. I don't know if anybody knows about Quirky. There used to be a TV show on Sundance. It was on about 3 years ago, and it followed the lives of these computer programmers who had a passion for inventors and products and placement and marketing. They're based in Chelsea. These are 3 of their most successful projects. There's the Pivot Power, which is I've actually backed some of these. There's the Pivot Power, which is this adapter that can kind of fit anywhere. It's like kind of takes the place of like one of those long strips, so it can kind of bend and stuff. There's the Mokubu, which is the cutting board, which is the all-in-one cutting board that has the food in it too. And you can see yeah, I agree. And then there's the Broom Broomer, which is a kind of cool one where, you want to get all that schmutz off with your broom, so you kind of, it's this dustpan and you kind of takes off all the dirt from the broom. The reason why I put this up here is because it's crowdsourcing, in that if you look at the first one, Pivot Power, so Jake Zine was the inventor, but 855 people contributed to that idea. Whether they gave him a color design, whether they told him to price it at a certain point, whether they told him to manufacture in China, whether they said that you should, make it blue. Well, whatever it was, if you gave an idea to it, you had some type of invested interest in it, and in exchange for your ideas and in exchange for your input, you got the Pivot Power, which was well, it actually depended on how much input you gave. So, no, I mean, you basically had to give, some pretty good input. Maybe you had to write a claim on their application. See, the good thing about Quirky is that they're actually involved from the inception of the idea all the way to the placement of the idea on the shelves, and that includes the IP protection of the idea. So they will actually file the patent application for you. They actually have lawyers on staff, and they'll present it to their Quirky community of like 30,000 people and get all this feedback. So if you're a very involved Quirky member, then yes, you can get the product in exchange for your ideas, for your
You actually get percentage of the sales.
You don't get percentage of the sales. Do you get percentage of the sales?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, I've never gotten percentage of the sales.
They give 30% to the inventors, so most of it goes to the main inventor, and then whoever put whatever input into it, they share it.
Wow, that's great.
How do they determine how much of a percentage you get based on?
It's all calculated in their process.
But the
In
original
the end, you
inventor.
generally don't get that much. And they also take care of production,
Right.
which is the key for a lot of people who aren't designers or inventors or producers. So, like, if you have an idea, you put it on there, as opposed to Kickstarter, which you have to, do the whole thing yourself.
Right. They actually produce the product for you. They actually, they'll actually narrow it down to like 3 prototypes, and then they'll post all prototypes on the community, and you vote on it. But I didn't
It's
know.
almost like licensing it to them.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they gave a percentage. Yes.
You actually are licensing it to them. You no longer own the product. You don't own the patent.
So Jake Zion doesn't own the patent?
That is correct.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry?
That's what I wanted to say.
You own a portion of it.
No.
Because you can at some point take it away, but they will still take a percentage.
I should do a presentation on Quirky.
Well, it's interesting.
It's
And
an excerpt.
excuse me, everyone. We want to focus on the crowdfunding, but it's an interesting thing with crowdsourcing, and in general, it goes back a year ago when Patrick was first asked the question. There is a lot of nebulous information with crowdsourcing, and it's not defined what you own and what you retain and when you can take it back. And from what I'm hearing in the room, there may even be different deals for different people.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
And at the core is you don't retain control of your IP.
And you need to be picked.
Right, you need to be right, exactly. And listen, I've actually went to their facilities. I applied for a job over there. I thought it was a really cool model, but I didn't know any of this. I didn't, and I've actually heard some negative things about Quirky, but I didn't hear this. It's kind of odd that, 856 people would own a portion of the patent. That doesn't, it sounds weird,
Yeah, not of the patent, just
Of the sales.
Of the sales.
Interesting. I'll come back and give one on crowdsourcing.
Quirky.
Okay, so reward, that's it. We are in reward for the rest of the night. We're going to be talking about patent protection and patent disclosures and all that kind of stuff. So artist share. Typical example, the oldest crowdfunding site, the artist gets 85% of the funds raised. Artist share gets 15% of what they raise. If the project is canceled and the funds are available, meaning they haven't been spent or anything, they're returned. Here's some sample of the types of rewards that you can offer. If somebody gave $12.95, they got a recording and the MP3 download. If someone gave $10,000, they actually got a credit on the album as an executive producer. So this is and by the way, this was a successfully funded project. You can buy Chamberworks by Maria Schneider. It's a pretty good album. And Artist Share has been around for the longest time and probably has the most criticism, as you'll see a little bit later. Indiegogo, it is free to sign up. You can contribute to, it is free to sign up, meaning you can put your campaign on, and it's also free to contribute. And Indiegogo will take 9% of all the fees that you raise, so a little less than Artist Share. If you, and here are some of the sample rewards. If you give $10, you get a thank you, and if you give $10,000, you get a executive producer credit. So this movie, Be Brave, was a independent film, and it was made by the surviving sister of a gentleman who died of cancer while he was in the middle of making a movie on the Mayan burial caves in the Yucatan. So he dies, and his dying wish is for this movie to be completed, and he asks his sister to complete it. She posts the campaign on Indiegogo, and she gets successfully funded. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because a lot of what goes into the campaigns, or successful campaigns, is this idea of having a story, having a hook of some sort where you can pull at people's heartstrings. And this was a very successful campaign. The movie was actually made. People wanted to see his dying wish to be made. I'm not saying everybody should find a dying wish to fulfill, but it definitely was a successful campaign. Back when I first put it, she was looking for $20,000. She actually ended up raising $65,000. Still pretty strong, but still pretty low when you consider Kickstarter. So Kickstarter. Kickstarter's been around since 2009. This is a sample project where you can use your phone to interactively change a picture frame with an LED screen. So whatever you have on your phone, you can put on your LED screen. So this is one of their successful projects. For $99, they will actually send you the actual picture frame, and you can put it together yourself. And for $1,200, you can get the fully assembled picture frame. So there's a lot of unique things that you can do as far as rewards, and it's something that we tell our clients. It's probably the biggest part of the planning is the actual rewards. What are you going to give people? What is reasonable for you to give people? What can you successfully give people in the amount of time that you promised them? So people have gotten in trouble for promising certain things. So it's something you should really think about, and we'll actually get into some of the horror stories of Kickstarter. So,
Does Kickstarter get the money and then they administer it to you in allotments?
No, so if you successfully fund a project, Kickstarter gets 5% of the funds collected. So you want $30,000, you get $60,000. Once your project is considered successfully funded, then you get your money. So it doesn't come in allotments; it comes in one big bulk. So, but there's a finite period, right? You want $30,000 in 2 months, and in 3 days you get $60,000. So it still stays open, right? You have to wait for that 2-month period to close. So you can't just say, "Oh, okay, we got our money, let's go." So you have to be ready to go the distance. And if you are, and so Kickstarter is very unique in that if you're successfully funded, you're required to fulfill all rewards or refund any backer whose reward you did not or cannot fulfill. This is huge because if you've asked for $30,000 and you only got you got $32,000, let's say, and it so happens that maybe you miscalculated or something and you can't successfully give the extra $2,000 of the, you can't give the rewards to the $2,000, you know, that you have your $30,000, you have $30,000 of rewards that you have to give, but you got this extra $2,000 and you never contemplated that with your rewards. So that's something that you're going to be responsible for. They expect you to fulfill those rewards. And if you don't, what's happened is that people have been going back on Kickstarter and saying, well, I gave my money and I didn't get my reward. And then this barrage of negativity surrounds you. And you don't want that. You want people to have an enjoyable experience. You want people to want to come back and help you on your next project. So I'm actually curious why you didn't, why you think you didn't get funded. Do you know? Yeah, I'm throwing you. I don't know your name. If I knew your name, I would. Erica. Yeah.
I think it was because the Kickstarter seems to be very specific and particular. It doesn't mean that there was anything wrong with my.
With your project.
Right, exactly. So I don't take it personally.
Good. Yeah. No, you shouldn't. You should. Yes.
I was wondering, and you may have a slide on this, you may address it at some point. Do you recommend your clients mitigate risk through an LLC, S corp, C corp, and also in terms of tax collection? Is there a recommended way of approaching this since there are no guidelines?
Yeah. So you I don't have a slide on the taxes, but I do have a slide on the fact that you need to, if you want, you can be on Kickstarter as an independent inventor with no company backing. You can do that. But you can also be on Kickstarter as a company-backed project. As far as taxes, you'd be responsible for gift tax, depending on how much your reward is. You'd be responsible for sales tax, depending on the product that you're actually selling and or buying with the money that you collect. And you're also responsible for income tax. So the money that you are given is actually considered income. No, it's income. Yeah, it's income.
Josh, please feel free. We have a new professional member, by the way, CPA here. Feel free to chime in if you'd like, Josh.
Well, no, that's what I was.
Hi, Josh.
Hi, how are you? I was going to get to, ask the question, you didn't bring it up, but
yeah.
I would say that people that are starting out in this, that's where they don't factor it
Right.
in their mind. You're giving away a tangible product,
Right.
something that you're going to sell ultimately. That's a taxable sale. But
So,
you're
yeah.
getting money and you're giving away something.
Yeah, yeah.
The IRS, regardless of the terminology that's used on these websites, the IRS is going to look at that as a taxable sale.
Straight up, yes.
It's going to be sales tax. I'm not sure about. The gift tax may be in certain arrangements, but I don't know if you can have a gift tax and an income tax at the same time.
Right.
But most of the time, it's going to be it's a tangible.
It's
value
income or sales.
Good. It's income sales tax.
Yeah.
So IRS is one entity. New York State, are they going to be looking
Right.
at their sales tax?
Well, IRS, New York State, New York City. If you're in New York City,
New York City,
the
right.
sales tax is there's no more complicated area in the taxes than sales tax, and that's because every state that you're doing business in has a different rule for sales tax and what they
Right.
recognize as a sale. So you know, there's a lot of implications when you're starting to get into this type of arrangement. So definitely want to consult with that.
Yeah. Yes.
So, in other words, let's say you gave away a promotional T-shirt to everyone who financed you for $50. You would be liable for tax on every single unit, sales tax.
Well,
Josh?
I think it ultimately depends what your business is. I mean, actually, that could be true. I mean, if you're getting money and somebody's giving you money because they're getting a T-shirt, I mean, you have that whole PBS thing with the donation.
Right.
That's a non-profit entity.
Yes.
But if you're entering for profit, and I'm only giving you money because you're giving me a T-shirt. I want your T-shirt. I mean, that's a sale. Whether or not you're in business to sell, you know, CDs or LED, you know, somebody's giving you money because ultimately they want the T-shirt. You know, that's the sell product to make.
You had a question.
I had a quick question. It seemed like a lot of the projects that were on there are just kind of smaller scale. I'm looking at a more complex injection molded, plastic injection molded.
Yeah.
A lot of funding is going to be required, and you know, what's the scale of what they actually look for on there?
You know what? Well, first of all, I would say we should talk about what the project is, because there are 500 crowdfunding sites that offer rewards. So maybe Kickstarter is not the right one for you. They do have very involved projects with specs and patent drawings and all that kind of stuff. But it seems like you may want one that's a little bit more geared to your industry, and you can find those. They're out there. I just want to show you 3 of the most successful projects that really were pretty involved. I mean, these were like pretty technical projects. There's the 3D printer. They raised $2 million. They raised almost $3 million. There's the Oculus Rift, which is like the virtual reality glasses games type thing, and they raised $2 million. And then there's the light bulb reinvented, which is a light bulb that is controlled by your phone.
So did they give T-shirts out for every single one of those $2 million? I mean, what kind of reward?
Okay, so the idea about crowdfunding, the idea behind crowdfunding is small amounts by a lot of people for your goal. So yes, there are people who want to give $1 for a thank you, and there are people who want to give $1,000, and there are people who want to give $5,000. If you look at the Kickstarter campaigns, there's lists from $1 to as high as $50,000, depending on what you think the reward should be. And the $1 people get a thank you. They get a balloon, or they get a T-shirt.
There are no real ground rules.
Right.
And you have, at your discretion, the ability to go with a $1 or a $10. Depends on how involved you want to be in how much of the crowd you want to manage.
Right.
You may only want to sell your light bulb at $50 a piece, and that's it. And use the crowd to help you get production.
That's exactly what it is. It's a misconception to think that Kickstarter is really for, you know, there's altruistic people are giving you stuff. For some smaller projects they will, but for your project that you were talking about, the more expensive invested projects, they almost always have funding beforehand, and they develop the product beforehand. And they don't say that, of course. They say that they're doing it, you know, to raise the money for the tooling. But the fact is that they get the money beforehand, develop it up front. And to his earlier point, the ones that don't do that often get in trouble because of the time and complexity of developing the product is a lot. It's always going to cost you twice as much and take you twice as long. And people don't expect that they're going to have to wait, or people have gotten money and then can't finish it because it's impossible. So really think of it as pre-sales rather than
right, exactly. And you know, the idea behind a reward is that you want to have as many people in your crowd as possible. And if that means asking for $1, $5, $10 in addition to your pre-funding, then that's the way you kind of build your potential consumers. You're building your block. You're building your base. You know? Yes.
In the guise of looking for funding, are people actually selling product, just using it for sales?
Okay, so Kickstarter, there are no when you post on Kickstarter, you do not have a product made yet. It is all pre-orders. These are these are pictures of products that have not been made yet. These are all specs and prototypes. So if you have a product already, you can do that. You can put it on Kickstarter, but most of them are for pre-orders of products that are not. Correct, yeah.
They're requiring that you cannot post a product that has not been fully prototyped yet. So for the reasons that you said before,
Right.
because they've gotten in trouble with it. So now all the products that you do see are supposed to be already, they're supposed to be final prototypes where the production is presumably
Right.
There's been a lot of buyer's remorse, seller's remorse.
Right.
Because people will post a project, and the phrase that I'm hearing used a lot is that it's not a scalable model. People think it's out there, it's available for you. This is part of why we're having this discussion. So you want to be as much of an expert in your own item as possible. The great thing about a pre-order is you don't have to go into production. A client of mine is using it right now because they needed the money for the tooling. You raised that question.
Yeah.
And the product was priced, so it's becoming a self-liquidating first 1,000 units. But it was done with a lot of
Well, we're
forethought.
well
You
on the
can't
way
just
of
jump in.
prototyping. We've already gone that stage, so we're
We can talk
approaching
about it later. We
final
don't want to
prototyping,
get
but
specific.
I don't know if that's like
I wanted to
appropriate
just
for that.
also say that you also need to be approved. That and they curate this, so they are a little bit allergic. Notice how everything is very stylish and designy.
Yeah.
On Kickstarter, if your product looks like the next as seen on TV product, they will not put it on there. They seem to have their little snobbery going on.
So
they retain the right to not post your product if they think it's schlocky or
Right.
and
Right.
so
And this is actually because of all the bad publicity that
That's
they've
right.
gotten for people who have posted anything and everything, got, $50,000, only wanted $5,000, and can't make the people happy with the product that they promised
But it's
them.
also a matter of taste.
There's a
They
phrase
will
also-
curate their taste as well. They have a
To
subjectivity.
that taste point, there's a phrase that I'm also hearing, and it's about how do you effectively use a crowd. And if your product has a noble cause, just as that person wanted to fund the last wish. Well, the product that my client is doing is a safety product. So it has a noble cause to save lives. That is tasteful to them. But if it's a schlocky kitchen gadget, I haven't heard about them rejecting, but I'm sure it's happening.
Yeah, I haven't heard about them rejecting anything either, but they're not the only site. There's a lot of crowdfunding sites out there. Yes.
Nowadays for people who invest, let's say, in a project, and you mentioned, let's say, 1,000, could be maybe 5,000. And this could be like a tax deductible, like a gift they can write off from tax.
So you're saying one person gives $5,000?
Somebody
That's are you going to talk about the fundraising?
Yeah, the actual fundraising, but do you want to answer that, Josh?
I didn't
Yeah,
address the question.
I'm not sure I understand the question either. So one person gives $5,000?
One person allow a year probably to give a gift.
Isn't it 10,000? 10,000?
So, let's say they invest 1,000. Are they consider this as a?
I don't,
Because they only
You're
get
still a
from
backer.
inventor, let's say,
Yeah, no, I don't-
thank you. But from them, well, what incentives? Why they need to give this 1,000? Maybe because tax deductible.
Right.
No, well, the gift, right, the gift, the gift tax, it doesn't work, it's not a tax, when you give a gift, it's not a tax deductible item. There's limits for, like you said, annual limits for somebody to give a gift, but that only goes into your estate and gift tax calculations, and whether or not you have to file a gift tax return with the government. It's not, when somebody gives a gift, it's not a tax deductible gift. You're thinking of charitable contributions that are tax deductible. This would not be a charitable contribution.
Okay.
Towards that end though, when you were saying like everybody, if you give somebody a t-shirt, you have to pay sales tax on that. You have to pay sales tax on the thank you?
I think the delineation is what are you giving, what are you getting and what are you giving? And that's what would determine what a sale is and what are you in business for doing. I mean, that's would be treated as more of an investment, a debt or an equity investment, depending on the terms of,
And I think the key is every campaign will be different. So to answer specifics, and this is something we always run into, we don't want to give too specific, but we want to make you aware that you should consult with the proper professional.
So the idea is don't accept any t-shirts because they try to steal your idea and you don't know it.
No, we're gonna get to the patent part of it.
And also,
Moving on.
Okay, you're right, your.
First in,
I also don't want to say it wouldn't be income either, because it might be income too. Somebody just gives you money. So,
Right.
You know,
We all want that headache. Can we get to the part where
right, I see, everyone wants the patent part. I'm supposed to make it less legal. Okay, so most successful project, $10 million. They raised $10 million for these Pebble watches, these interactive iPhone watches. There they are, they're now fulfilling the orders after like a year and a half of raising money. So the watches have come in, you can see the reviews, they're pretty good. So yeah, $10 million over the internet. Kickstarter, currently 3,800 projects. 7 projects have reached over 1 million. Like you said, they do no due diligence on their creators. So Kickstarter doesn't care if you are in your basement and you have and you're on welfare and you have no money or no type of resources to fulfill orders. They don't look to see who you are, what you're doing. They don't ask for your tax returns. They really allow anyone to post a project, and if it's allowable to them, they will post it. They will not. They don't do any diligence on who you are as an inventor. That's not a good thing. Again, it's not a store. The product has not yet been made, and one of the things about Kickstarters is that you can't cap your goals. So if, just like we were saying before, if you want only $30,000 and your project gets like wildfire and you get $3 million, you're responsible for fulfilling all of those orders. So it's something really something you have to really take into consideration, that you want that to happen, right? You want to price it at a point where you're going to have a lot of people, you're going to have a big crowd, but there's the possibility that it can go out of control, and you're responsible for all that.
You actually can, currently, you can cap certain gifts. Like you can say, there's a limited edition platinum version of this.
Right.
You can say
That,
only 500 units.
right. That's the actual reward, right? That's the actual reward. You can cap the rewards. You can cap the amount of the reward and what the actual reward is. And then another thing, Kickstarter doesn't have an admin. They don't have offices where they care about what's happening, right? So if you post a project and they actually cut you a check and you get your goal, the relationship is over. They don't care that you can't fulfill the rewards for all the people that you have promised stuff for. They're not in that business of. They don't care about that. They are a portal, and that's it. And the reason why I'm saying this, there are a lot of new crowdfunding sites that are out there that actually offer these services to you, that will help you market your product and then help you fulfill your orders and do all that stuff. So yeah, I'll skip that. We'll get to the patent stuff. Just so you know, they since 2009 or 2008, they've $288 million has been pledged and 233 has been paid out. So they're doing pretty well. I mean, at least their public relations are doing well. So, some of the pros of reward-based crowdfunding: you can have a good idea that you think is phenomenal, and if the crowd buys into it, then you can have a lot of people back you. This is something that has never existed before, and there's also the validation of good ideas, and the idea that if you're asking for $10,000 and 10,000 people have pledged $1, this in itself kind of creates this, yeah, exactly, and it kind of creates this buzz around your product, and it's exponential how much this can grow, so you have to be prepared for that. You, as the originator of the project, of the patent, as the inventor, you have complete control. So this is why it's become so popular with inventors and prototypers. So you don't, if you want, you can give it over to crowdsourcing, but if not, you can keep control. And I think the most attractive part of it is that you actually become friends and have relationships with your customer base. So everybody who has given you money, it has now kind of invested in your story, in your product, in your idea. And if you can continue that relationship with them, then you can foresee potential problems, and they can potentially be your customers when you come up with your next product or what. And then there's this idea, which is fairly new, that you can make change in your community. There's a lot of projects that are based locally. You can fund projects that are going on in just New York City, so you can support your other inventors. So at least if any of you are going to have a project, you should at least be supporting each other as a network. Yes.
Just one quick question. Is there any time frame there to fill on the reward? Do you have a time frame, time limit there?
No, you mean to actually fulfill the reward you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah, it's all up to you. You can be completely creative in this. You can say you can say you only want to ask people for $5, $100, $1,000. You can be creative with your rewards. You can be creative with your time limit. You can be creative with your goal. It's entirely up to you, but it's all based on your industry and the product and who your customers are and the feedback you get.
And it's about the education.
Yeah.
And it's setting up the expectation in what, so if you know you have to make tooling, and tooling is going to take 3 months to create, and then you're going to need a month for fabrication, you want to tell people that from the time the campaign ends, it's going to be 4 months at least before you get your product.
Yes.
So they're not hounding you. Where is it? Why
Right, exactly, and they're going to be doing that. And some of them take it to court. Some of them, they actually sue you for breach of contract, and we'll see that.
You mentioned that there are about 500 crowdfunding
Right.
sites. I didn't find that many when I Googled them. How do you find out?
So, right. So right now there's the crowdfunding organization there's like the National Crowdfunding Organization. They have a list. There's also it's a nonprofit organization that kind of gives you all of the news in crowdfunding. I can't remember what it's called, but I promised to get it to you. I actually get an email from them every day, what's going on in the world, different countries, where is crowdfunding going to, in this country, that country, most successful projects, that type of thing. So I'll send you that. I can't remember. It's something with crowdfunding in the...
There's also a site, crowdfunding.org.
Yeah.
You may or may not find some useful information there. But one of the things you'll see with a lot of so crowdfunding right now for the masses tends to have to do with reward. Crowdfunding as a topic seems to be a lot of people are jumping in to talk about it as it relates to the equity part of it. So you might be overwhelmed with information about equity, but all you want to know is about reward. So you're going to have to do some sorting. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be an easy way to separate that.
Okay, IP consequences of your pitch. This is very important. I know you've all been waiting for this. So this is what I spend most of my time at work counseling our clients about, which is if you are going to post a project on any type of crowdfunding site, and I hate to use Kickstarter since we've given Kickstarter such a bad rap, but if you are going to make a video, you have to be aware of certain things that are going on in the IP world. First of all, there's these foreign internet trolls, right? You're posting in the United States. You are posting your idea. Hopefully, you have a patent pending. If you don't already, you should not be posting on any type of site. But if you have your IP in order and you filed your provisional application, there is this possibility that somebody from a different country can file in their country. It's happening, it's happened. And now with the law changing, I don't know, I'm not sure how familiar you all are with patent law, but patent law is changing after 100 years. We used to be a first to invent country, which means if you've been tooling around in your basement for the last 3 years, that matters, right? That goes into the facts surrounding when you invented something. That doesn't matter anymore after March 16th. This Saturday, the law changes. So all the records you've been keeping about when your invention was made or when you made your first prototype or what, if you don't have a patent application filed by this Saturday, none of that matters. The patent office will not care anymore what you've been doing in your basement or what you've been or what prototype you're up to. They don't care. So the law will now become on March 16th. It's the first to file. So on March 16th, the world becomes it's a race. So if you have an invention and I have an invention and you invented yours before in your basement 3 years ago, but I filed first after March 16th, I win the contest.
Did you
No. So right now, right now for our system in the United States is first to invent. The idea of invention.
That you invented something without.
So you have
For sale for
yeah,
2 years.
you can have sales, you can have notes, you can have notebooks, published articles, whatever, something that shows. Right, exactly. That's no more binding anymore. So something that shows that you conceived this idea, the actual conception of it. So now they don't care about that anymore. This is in line with every other country in the world. So what we've actually been telling our clients to do is file right now, file anything you can. At least get something on file. If you don't have a patent pending, get a patent pending right now. It's very important. The next 5 days. So also what you have to worry about are your trade secrets, all the different public disclosures. A lot of these sites, investors will not give you money unless they know some of the intricate details of your invention, right? So you don't want to give away everything, but you have to give away something because they won't invest in you. But you don't want to give away something that's patentable, right? You don't want someone to take it from you if you have it. Again, if you don't have a patent filed. If you have your patent pending and you're posting a campaign, then you shouldn't have anything to worry about. You should be filing, everyone should have a provisional, everyone should get that filed. You have 1 year to convert it to a utility application. But this is for folks who are thinking of posting that do not have patent protection. Don't do it. Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right.
So I'm just here to balance it.
Yeah, no, you're right, and also not everything's patentable, right?
Right, there you go.
So you can think what you have is patentable, and you can file a patent application, and maybe it's just not. Maybe it's deemed not patentable.
It may not be patentable.
You can also file a provisional patent, which is much cheaper. Will give you a year, and then if it fails, you haven't invested all this money.
Right. Yeah, but again, you have to get that provisional on immediately. I think that's you have to. I'm only advocating getting it on in the next few days if you have the type of invention that you've been working on for years that has culminated into a current prototype that you want to prove the history of your product.
Yeah, but what if your prototype isn't in a final stage? There are tweaks and.
So then you file a provisional application. It gives you 1 year to convert it, and then when you convert it, you actually update it. You update the drawings. You update the specification.
Okay.
But then, by the way, you're not compelled to have to put a product online.
Right.
You should wait until you're ready to disclose it to the public, so you have the best chance of being successful.
Yeah. Right.
Then it's all part of strategy. So not to get into everyone's specific things, but just want to make sure everyone has a balanced perspective.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then, of course, if we've talked about it before, if you put your product online and you're asking for investors, you have to manage all their expectations. You have to keep in touch with them. You have to give them their rewards. You have to make sure that if there's a pre-order that you satisfy it, that type of thing. Okay, so some of the Kickstarter litigations. These are some of the horror stories that have happened, right? So. This is the hand-free iPad stand. As you can see, it looks kind of like a boomerang. They raised $35,000 from 440 backers. One of the backers was a lawyer. His name was Singh, and he did not get he didn't get what he was promised as a reward, and so he brought suit against Quest, which is the inventor of this hand-free iPad stand, and Quest went bankrupt in the litigation. He's a lawyer. He was able to fund his own litigation. And the actual Kickstarter campaign person is this Quest guy who had 440 backers and raised $35,000. He went bankrupt, and now nobody knows where he is. He's like in Costa Rica or something like that. And he made 440 people really mad. And if you actually go on his Kickstarter campaign, I actually think it's still up. You can see all the negativity that has kind of transpired.
All the money back, except for that one guy who was a lawyer had to sue him.
Yeah, but I think yeah, shit happens, exactly. Everybody is entitled to prove their point, right? And I don't know. There's something. Listen, he gave all the money back, but the fact was he promised the product, right? That was why he went on Kickstarter. So if you're going to go on Kickstarter and you're not able to fulfill a product after you get $35,000 from 440 people, then you have no business being on Kickstarter. That's what it comes down to. So, I mean, I think he was served a harsh lesson, and hopefully he'll come back to Kickstarter and do it successfully the next time. We want him to come back from Costa Rica. Okay, so remember this before, this 3D printer that raised $3 million, also in litigation. They raised $3 million, and this is a very complicated patent infringement thing where they actually, where somebody actually waited to sue on patent infringement after it was funded for $3 million. So they believe that that there is patent infringement and funding. I'm not sure how, this is kind of outdated. I think the funding is not continued, but the printers have not been shipped. There's litigation that's going on, and so we're all kind of waiting to see what happens. These are fairly new litigations that involve Kickstarter, and so everybody's kind of been following them to see what happens. Yes?
The lawsuit on 3D printers is that one of the 3D printer companies claim that since he designed it in a box, that if you want to make a 3D printer, you can't put it in a box.
Right.
And a 3D printer, if you know what 3D printers do, they squirt hot glue.
Right.
And who wants to be close to anything that's squirting hot glue? So everyone's designed their 3D printers in boxes, and he sued every 3D printer company. So the newest one, which is Delta Print, is just 3 legs with 3 arms without a box at all, and it comes down and prints without being a box. It looks like a sculpture. It got funded to $500,000, and he was smart. Delta said, first guys get the first 500 for $500, next group for 500 get $600, next group $1,000, next group $1,200, next group $1,400, next group $2,000. And he knew they would cost $500, but he wanted to start making money, but he wanted to make sure, because he got excited, and people got excited because he knew they wouldn't get sued, and it's a beautiful 3D printer.
Right.
It doesn't have to be in a box. Someone just got, MakeBot or somebody just got Kickstarted approved, and you have to make your own box. So it says, here it is, it's completely assembled, but you're going to have to go out and buy 4 pieces of acrylic.
To make yourself.
And screw them together so you don't get hot glue sprayed all over you when this thing.
Right.
We have another question?
Yes.
Yeah, here's what I don't understand. Let's say I have a widget that is going to retail for $500. If you donate, or if you fund my project, I'll give you a promotional mug. I'll give you a coffee mug. So somebody funds me for $500. How is it implied that they're entitled to buy my widget? Is that, in other words, is that $500 a binding pre-order for my widget? If all I said was, well, you give me some money, I'm going to give you a promotional mug.
No, okay, if you decide on your campaign that you want to get $500 for a mug and somebody wants to give you $500 in exchange for a mug, then they're only going to get a mug. So you have to decide somewhere in your reward structure that you're actually going to pre-order it, so you're going to price it at $3,000. For $3,000, then you get your widget. Then you have to fulfill your widget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it essential then to give someone a pre-order option?
You don't have to, but that's how Kickstarter.
It's a matter of the terms of your offer.
Right.
Okay.
You may say that the only thing you want to
Fine.
offer is if you give me $500, I'll give you a 3D printer.
Right.
You don't have to get into the whole thing with the mugs. People do that as a way to involve as more people as possible, so it's not just $500.
Right.
I think Patrick had a question.
Yeah, I was curious to know if the Kickstarter campaign wouldn't be the perfect opportunity, in fact, to test your retail price point. That wouldn't you want to get as close as possible? Suppose I have a product that I believe could sell very well at $19.99. Wouldn't my Kickstarter be, give me $20 and I'll give you a unit?
Sure, but it depends if your units are able to be made already. Like, are you at the point where they're packaged already?
I understand, but if they cost me, I mean, if you know the cost to retail ratio is 1 to 5, right? So you, on a mass scale, you want to be able to manufacture them for $4 because they're going to retail for $19.99. But if, for example, I just want to prove that it can sell, even if it costs me $20 each to make and fulfill, what I've tested is the price point.
Right.
What I've tested is the validation. It didn't cost me anything, and I've validated the price point. Does that make sense,
To
Bruce?
answer your question, Patrick,
Yes.
absolutely. It's
Okay.
a very valid thing to do, but the caveat would be, don't just put it out at $20 to test a price point if you have no clue that you could make it in
Right,
an ongoing
right,
basis,
right,
where you're gonna
right,
make money
right.
based upon a wholesale to retail price.
Right, you have to be cognizant of the actual cost to fulfill from beginning to end, but you don't wanna price it at 500.
Right,
my
right.
point, just because I happen to need the money.
Right.
Correct.
You also have to understand that there are people out there who want to be angel investors, who want to give you $500 for a mug to help you out. They don't want the product. They just want to give you the money. They need this model.
The accountant had a perspective.
Yes.
No, I was gonna say that wouldn't be an angel investor, because they wouldn't get anything.
True. No, true. I'm talking about from the goodness of your heart.
But,
Yeah.
no, I was gonna
Just
say,
an angel.
just from what I'm hearing, it seems like the best, or the most effective use of this website, or to use Kickstarter, is you have a product, it's ready to go, you know you can produce it, and you're really using this as a marketing campaign. And you say, here's you're executing a business plan, and you're allocating promotional, dollars towards it. You're saying, I'm going to sell X amount for X dollars, and my margin's going to be that. Plus, I got to give Kickstarter a fee, so
Right.
my net take home is going to be X. And the idea is that it gets this
Right, this
mass
crowd.
going, and now it runs itself. And I think that seems like you avoid all the other problems.
Correct.
With that product.
There is advice for all types of clients, right? Everybody's at a different stage in their process. But ideally, what we tell clients is start a corporation, get on social media, create your crowd, create your buzz, get your investors lined up, launch your Kickstarter campaign. Within 2 hours, get all your investors to donate, to actually put forward their capital that they promised you. So people can then see, oh my God, this is a successful campaign, and then more people fund it, and more people fund it. But again, this is a company that is successfully making the product. They're ready to give their orders, or maybe they're a few months out. Don't recommend that for everybody. But they've also built buzz on social media. So there is this social media component that we haven't even talked about, but it's all about. I think you actually mentioned it in the scarf. I think that you have to build this buzz, this crowd around your product. But these are your potential customers one day. So you have to look at it like that. So it should be part of your business plan that you are social mediaing it. Yes.
What about finding people to run your campaigns for you?
Yeah.
How does one find that?
That's actually I'm not familiar with any companies yet that have done that, but it's a good market to think about for some of you who actually.
Help you for maybe 9% interest.
It's a great idea.
Once again, like any of this stuff that has to do with product development, be careful.
Yeah.
And research, talk to, interview, get referrals from people you know, and do your homework. But be careful about giving away percentages, and ask for success, and go in with your eyes wide open. Yes, Chris?
I've actually supported a few projects that have gotten funded.
Cool.
And then I've reached out to the actual company.
Yes.
And I've said to them, how did you do it?
Right.
And I've got a bunch of emails. I've actually made friends with them.
Yes.
So I'm considering doing a project. And I've learned the pros and cons from the ones who have made it.
Exactly.
And I had one gentleman tell me he hired a campaign and company, and he told me the name of the company. I forget, I wrote it down. But be a supporter, because that helps as well.
Because I'm not good at social media and stuff.
Right, I understand, but I think he actually has a good point, because you don't have to necessarily be good at social media. If you want to be a good backer, like back one to see how to do it. Hopefully you'll back a successful one, and like you said, be friends with them, and actually, because there are forums, and they have their own page. It's not just give money and go. It's give money and be involved and see where it goes. Yes. Yes, I'm almost done.
Some final Q&A. We're going to take a break and then go into the pitch panel.
Okay, so just so you know, there's a current litigation on whether crowdfunding itself is patentable. It's Artist Share, which is that first company we talked about. They believe that they have created they actually have a patent on crowdfunding, and it's currently in litigation against Kickstarter. So they are accusing Kickstarter of infringing their patent. So Artist Share believes that they have the rights to crowdfunding. Kickstarter believes that they are not infringing and should not pay Artist Share a license. So that's currently in litigation that's happening right now.
Very briefly, besides Artist Share, there's a long history of the format of crowdsourced funding back in the day for filmmakers and other people,
Sure.
way before it was
It
established.
actually goes back to like the 1700s.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
No,
so-
but crowdfunding, there's like examples of like
you know, so-
Irish serfs
So
and stuff
hopefully
like
they
that.
can maintain that lawsuit, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one because if ArtistShare gets the right to crowdfunding, then all these sites are going to have to pay them a license. Right. Okay, a successful crowdfunding campaign. Make a cool video, 4 minutes. Tell your story. Use heartstrings. Use a lot of weed. Find a hook, right? Maybe hire a video producer and actually have a really cool video. Don't you know? If you've seen some of the videos, they're kind of pretty cool. Build your crowd on social media. Plan your rewards very strategically. Make sure that you can fulfill all the awards. Update your backers. Be involved with your backers. Send them emails saying the product is late, or you know we're having difficulties. Whatever. A lot of those Kickstarter craziness stories were people who just up and left and did not talk to their backers. So if you have a crowd of people, talk to them. You have a forum. You have a page. Use it. Yes.
All right, if you've got a patent pending.
Yes.
Okay, so who knows if you're really going to get one, but you have a patent pending, it's marked down someplace.
Right.
This thing isn't nearly as frightening as it would be otherwise because, I mean, the best thing that can happen is somebody makes 20 million with your idea and you just go after them.
True.
If you can afford the litigation.
Well, you make a partner with your lawyer, you
True.
can start that.
But that's a long road. Yeah, that's a long road.
That's kind of like buying a winning lottery ticket.
Right.
Right, but well, that's what we're all here for. But
Right.
the thing is that the patent pending is protection enough unless somebody just out and out steals from you. I mean, that's
Correct.
essentially
Right.
it. All right.
Yeah. Well, so basically, you should have intellectual property should be an essential part of your business plan. Make sure your patent pending is in order. Make sure you have a provisional. Make sure you have your trademarks, your copyrights. Make sure you file a provisional. Right now, the fees are about to go up. It's $200 for a provisional for a small entity. It's $400 for a large entity. There's a new entity out there called a micro entity, and it's actually $100. I don't know why I put 100%. It's $100. So if you're a micro entity, if you're an inventor on 4 patents, at least 4 patents, you can qualify as a micro entity. So that's something new that's starting on March 18th. Basically, you want to file an application. You have 1 year to perfect it, so don't worry. This is if you want to go public with with your idea, with your prototype, something. Okay, so also part of the IP strategy is you should have your copyright protection in order. You should have your trademark protection in order. If you have a company name, make sure it's trademarked. If you are using copyrighted materials in any part of your campaign, make sure you give credit to the copyright holder. You do not want to be sued for copyright infringement or anything like that, or trademark infringement. So make sure you give due rights to everybody, to all the different rights that you have. You should avoid disclosing technical details of your invention. And again, never allow 1 year to pass after making a public disclosure. So back to that thing, if you publicly have put out your idea, new law, old law, you have 1 year to file a patent application. So it's something to think about. It's something to kind of write down somewhere and make sure that you keep those records. Also, if you want to file it internationally, you have 1 year from that public disclosure as well to file internationally. If you file a provisional application, you have 1 year from the provisional to file a utility application in the United States or an international application in the PCT, the Patent Cooperation Treaty, which covers 184 countries. So make sure you file within 1 year of your provisional as well. And again, if you're not going to file a patent application, or you don't have a patent pending, but you disclose some of your patent ideas, you have 1 year from the time you disclose it to file an application in the United States or internationally. Okay? Maybe we should give these slides to them afterwards. Yeah, we'll give the slides out. The future of crowdfunding. Fundable will be the next US first equity crowdfunding. It will cost $99 per month. Hopefully, if the SEC approves it, they will allow people to give anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000. More and more industries have been joining on the crowdfunding. There are the fashion ones, Cut the Bias, where you actually put your fashion designs on there, and you get kind of crowdsourcing ideas on it, and crowdfunding to kind of make your pattern and whatnot. There are public projects. New York City is actually on Kickstarter. They have their own page as well. where they kind of ask people for money to improve urban neighborhoods and kind of plant trees and stuff like that. So more and more industries are starting to use this. More and more different types of nonprofits are also using it. Lastly, there's even Gambitious, which is a site out in the Netherlands, which there are gaming developers who sit there all day kind of creating programming for new internet games, and they request funding to make those games as well as ideas on how to make the games better. And the biggest trend in crowdsourcing is that right now we have 500 portals. It's inevitable that they're going to start to kind of integrate and consolidate with each other. It's just what happens in this country. People start to kind of buy each other out and whatnot. So yes, there are some problems in some of the existing crowdfunding sites, but as they consolidate, it will likely become more stringent. They'll have more requirements as to what you can post, what the video should look like. So that's inevitable. So eventually, this model will likely change. All this laissez-faire type of treatment. It's likely all gonna change in the next year or two. Also, one of the more popular ideas that's coming up is the idea of in-person crowdfunding, where if you have the second of its kind event is called One Sparks. It's in a few weeks in Jacksonville, Florida, I think. Yeah, in Jacksonville, and they're giving out $250,000 by vote, so you can come. There are 65 people with their crowdfunding projects. Either they have it on Kickstarter or not, but they're actually going to be there live with their prototypes. They're going to be pitching to people. It only costs $45 to get in. Only 65 places. They've already been taken, but there's going to be people who are going to be voting on different projects, and they're going to be giving out money. So this idea of in-person crowdfunding is like the newest craze, where people have kind of taken it off of the internet and kind of meeting in person. They want to be up close and up front with the people who are creating these projects. And there's also Find Boomer, which is a speed dating type thing where they actually match up the investor with the project creator, and they jump from table to table. So these kind of happen more locally. So it's not just going to be on the internet. Likely, the more crowdfunding we have, the more it's going to be regulated. So right now, there's a chance to get in and do it right. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
It's a very dynamic field, and it's going to be like a mini .com bubble to some degree. There's going to be a lot of self-cleansing, and just be careful also. Any other questions we didn't answer? Yes?
I was just wondering, you mentioned that there are some sites that are now handling the fulfillment side of things. Do you know of any of those?
The what?
The fulfillment side?
Fulfillment?
Like,
where they do the
in,
complete process for you.
like instead of you holding, I took that as you don't hold inventory, someone's holding your product and sending it out to everybody.
There is a site called Pave. I don't know if anyone's heard of Pave.com. They're brand new. It's still kind of, they're kind of new, maybe 6 or 7 months. Yeah, they have their patent application online. They actually filed already, so they've kind of launched recently. They match you up with an investor, and they kind of hold your hand the whole way, and they kind of introduce you to the investor, where you have like this mentor-mentee relationship. So they kind of teach you how to do things the right way. I think there's a fee. I'm not sure. I think right now they're like the first 50 are going to be able to kind of do it free. But I think the project is also, I think it depends on what your project is. I think they're looking more for like entertainment-based projects, more like filmmakers or. Actually, I take that back. You should definitely apply. I'm sure they're open to all types of ideas. Hey, PAVE.
Patrick.
Yeah, my question was that ultimately, crowdfunding is to provide seed capital, perhaps prove your concept, get it done, pay for tooling, get it out there. But we're here to get rich, right? I mean, no one's going to get rich, even if you raise a whole shit ton of money on Kickstarter. You owe it all back in product, right? I mean, you're not going to see a profit. have you or you, Bruce, ever seen a situation where a retailer will notice something and then call you and say, okay, we want this in store, because that's how you get rich, right? I mean, that, or a manufacturer says, we'd like to license this from you.
Well, I will tell you without revealing anything confidential, and this is something that I alluded to, I don't know if you heard at the beginning, but.
No, I was late as usual.
At the Houseware Show, there is an undercurrent about the importance of crowdfunding. And while you're not going to necessarily get rich, it will be some rocket fuel to get your product going, and it'll give you validity. So if you do want to go out to a retailer, to be able to have sales success stories, and it's going to make you more attractive to that retailer, and you're also going to be a proven entity in that you have an actual product instead of going
Is that
to a
conceptual,
retailer with a nascent idea.
or is that actual experience?
It does happen.
It does happen.
It happens a lot. And those guys, the retailers are actually looking at.
I would
sites.
imagine, because otherwise they're gonna be like, how are they gonna pick?
Well, but also, you can use it to make a profit if you know.
Oh, absolutely.
If you give a product that costs you $3, your land that costs
No,
like $3.
my point
and
is
you
that
get
we all have, I mean, I would hope, day jobs. And the idea is unless you wanna make manufacturing and shipping product your new full-time job, in which I know I'm incompetent, then ultimately what I want is to license it or have, a big retail order. But these quantities are not going to make a dent in anyone's life. Really.
No, but
they'll help you.
They'll help
But
you.
it's a start.
Yeah, and I want to tell you that there's an article that I probably should have included the link, and I can send it to everybody. It's 10 of the most 10 products that you can look forward to on crowdfunding sites that will change your life in the year 2013. So these are products that already have been kind of designated by like Google Ventures and like Target and like Walmart. So they're already looking at them where, like the solar watches and some iPhone app or whatever. These are not products that are being designed by Apple. These are products that are being designed and tooled on crowdfunding sites, waiting to be launched with Apple or Google Ventures or something.
That's the big payouts.
Yeah,
I was wondering if it actually leads to something really very good.
Yeah, and the crowd the crowd has to help you. I mean, you have to remember the crowd part of it.
Just the other day, I bought at the Apple store a Wi-Fi enabled LED light that does exactly what I think that they're selling. I mean, I'm wondering if it's the same.
I wonder if it is the same one.
No.
Can I ask you a question? How I can just jump to some crowdfunding site and see what's going on? Can I do this as a just observer?
Yeah.
Not necessarily participate and see just how this works for
Yeah, you can go on them. You can go on any of them, and everything's there for you to see. It's all transparent. You can see what people are saying, if they're mad, if they're sad, how they're doing. You can watch the videos. You don't have to give any money. The only time you're going to have this gated community is when you want to get involved in the equity part. For now, you're not going to be able to see what people are working on.
any site I can go?
Yeah, any site, yeah.
See what you
Totally, yes.
different projects.
Yes, totally.
Going on, right?
Yes, yeah. They actually list the projects that have been funded also. So they actually, have their successful ones. They want you to know how the good ones are going. Right. They've actually taken down the bad ones though. Like I know they've taken down some of the negative ones. Sorry.
Yeah. Is there any crowdfunding for B2B projects as opposed to
For
business to business rather than business to consumer?
I'm sure. I'm sure. I can't imagine.
There may be a site designated more appropriate for B2B, but that's the thing about these sites is that they're public spaces, and it's a matter of how you manage your crowd and who you're trying to communicate with.
How would I research those funds though that are really more geared toward business to business?
Funds in the portals, you might see B2B crowdfunding sites.
Yeah,
Or I think what Dave mentioned there were, the crowdsourcing. That's a technique that's been used in the arts for many years, where people are looking for collaborators. So there might be industry-specific sites. Josh?
I was gonna say, I guess I'm equating this to kind of like the social media trend, where this is all very new to a lot of people, except for niches. You see a lot of things coming out. The laws aren't set yet. I mean, how fast do you see this becoming so oversaturated, where it's like right now you can get a good bang for your buck if you get a product that takes off, but I mean, I can see quickly with, you know, so many of these sites opening up and everybody kind of getting on it that it's going to become so inundated with people just trying to.
Right. Well, the trend has become very niche, right? So they have ones for fashion, they have ones for housewares, they have ones for community. So, but eventually they're likely going to, yeah, there's going to be one major portal who's going to kind of eat those all up, and
It's going to become the Facebook of.
right,
you know,
exactly,
like
exactly,
Kickstarter's like your
right,
main guy
right.
right now.
And nobody goes on MySpace anymore.
One more
It'd be like
question,
that.
then we'll take a break. Yes.
So what's your, from an independent investor point of view, what's your liability if you just go ahead and let's say, oh, I got my provisional patent application, I did my patent search, I'm gonna put my product on Kickstarter and then fund it, I get $1 million. What's my liability if somebody says, hey, I invented that in another country and I have an international patent? What am I liable for if I get sued? Is there a limit there? Or?
Geez, that's
everything. Yeah.
That's a loaded question.
I mean,
Maybe
right.
something you could ask Dave at the.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully if you did your patent searching and all that, you won't be in that mess. But I mean, I always say spend more upfront for your searching than, and don't be cheap on your searching. Like, you should be searching worldwide. But then there's a period of there's 18 months, right? Things are secret. You don't know who has what, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's a gamble.
That's why I guess you can start a small company or LLC or something.
Yeah, that you're shielded. Yeah, you're shielded. Yeah.
So, don't mean to cut you off. I know we could keep going, but I did want to get to our pitch panel. So, thank you very much, Dave, again.